Hey y'all, what's up? I am back today with a book chat on Sarah J Maas's 5th book in her Throne of Glass series called Empire of Storms. I actually listened to the majority of this book on Audible in connection with the Kindle app on my phone. This is the first book that I've ever listened to using Audible, and I thought I would hate it, and I loved it. Cannot recommend it enough. It made it where I could listen to the story while I was driving, doing laundry, at work, things like that. So I was able to consume the story places and at times I normally wouldn't be able to, and so I'm really excited about reading that way in the future. Originally, I think this was supposed to be a 6-book series, but I think now that there's 7 plus the Assassin's Blade novellas, I'm confused at this point, but this is finishly a completed series now that Kingdom of Ash is out, and I am trying to catch up as quickly as possible. So, got my notes here as per usual. These notes are actually post-read. I didn't make any of these while reading because I'm really great at doing these videos, and so I might ramble, I might miss things, but before I get started on all the spoilers and things like that, since this is the 5th book in the series, I'll go ahead and let y'all know that this is probably my 2nd favorite book in the series so far. I definitely give it an A-. I can't tell you too much about this story just because obviously it's the 5th book, and so all I can tell you is it's just a complete expansion from the original 1st book, Throne of Glass, where we meet Selena, who is a world-renowned assassin and is having to compete to become possibly the king's personal assassin to win her freedom. And let me just tell you how much that is almost irrelevant in the 5th book. I mean, worlds have just completely opened up and we are on a completely different path now, and it has gotten so much better. There seems to be two, different types of fans of this book series. It seems like there are people that really like the beginning portion of this series and that plot line, and then there's people like myself that are really liking where the story is going better. I definitely think that this book starts out a little bit slower. Some of the characters are divided up again like they have been in previous books at the beginning. Will or will they not merge in their plot lines? And so, like I said, I give this an A-. Highly recommend, and that's it. If you haven't read it, click off now. Go watch my other reviews from the other books in this series. Come back later when you get to it and we'll talk about it. But that's all I can say for right now without spoiling you. Bye. See you later. Bye. Okay, let's get into it. Like Air of Fire, I think, we have 3 main separate plot lines going at the beginning of this book. The first plotline or storyline I want to talk about is that of Alid. And so Alid has been freed, and Manon has kind of set her on her way after Kaltain was able to actually set her free, and she is trying to find Aelin and Selena because she has obviously no idea that they're the same person. I personally don't care for Alid. I think that possibly it's a contrast of her compared to the other female characters that I more relate to and like more in this book series. I know she's been through a lot, and this might make me sound like a horrible person, but if you knew me personally, I don't feel bad for people, characters, things like that very easily. I can feel for them in their situation, but the whole woe is me thing, I have a very short attention span for that. And so with Alid, I do feel bad for her, but sometimes I just get tired of hearing about it. I know that's bad, but it's just the truth. So then Lorcan obviously comes into play with her and is they're scratching each other's back. I like the idea of Lorcan as a character because he's dark and everything about him is like death and dark. Love it. All about it. Hello? I'm filming. Just waiting on you to get here, so that's fine. No problem. I love Lorcan as a character. To add that you know, darkness. I feel like that's one thing that I'm missing in this series that was in like A Court of Thorns and Roses, is that I feel like these characters are more grumpy than dark, and I'm more of a fan of dark. So I do like Lorcan. I personally don't like feel their romance. Don't get it. I know that he mentions her chest size quite a few times, but like it seems more analytical than anything, which I totally get. I think a lead's like contribution to the group will be more her mind than anything, which clearly is very important. We'll just see what happens. I really want to do this last because this is my favorite character in this whole series, but I know that I need to kind of build up to like importance for in general. The next storyline is that of Manon. I know her name is Manon, but I say Manon and I'm going to continue to say Manon. So wow. Manon is my favorite character in this entire series because she is my soul. Like if I was a fictional character, I feel like I would be Manon. And what's so funny, I was told by my friends that have read this already, they were like, listen, there's this character in this book series, it's you gotta keep reading, which is like, now that I've read more about her and got to know her, is like such a compliment to me. But so she just over time has had this battle of like loyalty and being like a real soldier pretty much, and realizing the cause that she's fighting for is whack. Like
his hair, whack. His gear, whack. His jewelry, whack. His footsteps, whack. The way that he talks, whack. The way that he doesn't even like to smile, whack. Me, I'm tight as fuck.
Her grandma's the worst, and she's realized that her 13 are so loyal, well I guess it's 12 minus her, but are so loyal to her and her best friends and all that, that they follow her. They're putting their own beliefs and everything like that to the side just to follow her in hopes that eventually she will get what's going on and lead them, I think, in a different direction. So Astrid, I just call her Astrid because I've watched The Office too many times. That's just it. Her story is just like, I would think so differently of Manon if she didn't decide to say, you know what, like, F all y'all, I'm out of here, like, because that's not only her cousin, but her best friend and her second, and for if she was to just disregard what she had told Manon and act like none of it ever happened and it wasn't a big deal, I think I would feel very differently. So I was very glad that when they found out, I don't know, I'm really confused about the whole thing, about the yellow legs, her killing the yellow legs to let Dorian get away, which we'll get to that in a little bit, but that blood would have blood when really she was just doing her job. To me, really, Manon's grandma is just always trying to cut her down all the time, doing anything she can, and trying to get rid of her second, and so it was just an excuse. I watched a review where somebody mentioned that they felt like it was a little bit forced. I didn't notice at the time. I knew something felt off, but I didn't realize that that's why it felt off to me, is that it was a little bit forced, but I do think it was necessary for the scene then where she is having to kill her second. And at the very last minute, she flipped script and is like, listen here, Grady, we about to throw down. That was my second favorite scene in the entire book. It was so good. I cannot rave about it enough. So then when she finally, you know, she's out of the story for a good chunk after, you know, she jumps off on to, I say Braxos, but I know it's a Brax something, onto her wyvern. And she's gone for a little bit. When she flew in, when they're all on that boat and they can see it coming and somebody's like, oh my god, that's a wyvern, and you see that silver hair and she dropped into the water, I could have cried out of relief of like, she's finally found her people. Not that the 13 aren't her people. I think her 13 and her like belong with the group. And so I knew that eventually the 13 would come find Manon and that they would all be together and win Abraxos. at the very end went and found 13 and brought them to her. I was like, yes, everyone's together finally. Except for Kale, and we don't care where you're at. Okay, so then my camera could die at any moment. So then there is the third storyline after Rowan and Dorian make it to Skulls Bay and meet up with Aelin and Aedion and Lysandra. So Aedion and Lysandra's storyline to me is a very good constant in the middle. I think that there's a whole bunch of this, if motions and noises make any sense. You get what I'm saying? But they're pretty steady in the middle and keep everything tethered. Aedion got on my nerves so much this book. He was like the new Chaol. It was like, let's just doubt everything that Aelin's doing, which I get. I really do get that she's annoying and the fact that she doesn't tell them anything and puts herself in harm's way. But the fact that, I don't know, the fact that in the first like 2 books that he was in, he was so like, she's the greatest, she can do no wrong. And then all of a sudden he's like flipping script and is like, I don't trust anything that she's doing. Just registered as Chaol in my brain, and I think that made it worse. While Lysandra's over here being like the best character really in the entire book, because she's just like, I'm here to do whatever I gotta do and be whoever I have to be. My camera died, as you can tell by my different base hair and shirt. It is the next day, and I did make a note that I stopped at Skulls Bay. So, my favorite scene of the book, which is hard to put a finger on, but was the battle at Skulls Bay, just because of the emotions that, you know, come into play and the different sections of it. Lysandra's part that she played was well portrayed. I feel like she is always a very important part of the plan, but isn't always put at the forefront. You have to really be paying attention to understand the gravity. I've said this in one of my previous book chats, that in Air of Fire, I felt like her role of coming in to the tunnels as a, I think it's a snow leopard, is that what she always is? Was, I mean, like, a huge deal. When Aedion is able to then help her at the very end, after she'd really done everything and figured out a way to do the most that she could by cracking the boat and then having the other sea dragons like go on. It was, I can't rave about it enough. As I've said, Aedion wasn't my favorite in this. I felt like the comment that Aedion made to Lysandra as she's on the beach about one day being his wife, I mean, I think that they have a good rapport back and forth, and I could see in the future them having a relationship, but I felt like that was put off. It would have been better if it was like put off as a joke kind of, but I felt like it was posed very seriously, so then it felt forced, and I was like, this is weird. But I also wasn't feeling Aedion in this book, so that might have skewed my opinion. Then, of course, we have Aelin and Rowan. I was very concerned at the beginning of this book because they are separated, and I could not deal with that again. I just was like, please let them come back together so quickly. In their reuniting scene when she's like feet propped up in Rolf's, I guess, office, and is like hitting on him, and everybody like is in the background like loved it. That was my favorite fun scene of the entire book, just because it was so Selena. And I know that there is like controversy in the separation between Aelin and Selena. I just think that she's a multifaceted female, and that's fine because that's how the majority of us are. She just turns it on and off when she feels appropriate, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it all day long. I do think that their relationship was more solid, of course, in this book. I'm a big, you know, in the middle of the chase lover kind of thing. So then once it's solidified, I am a little bit less interested. Sadly, it's just the truth. And so I did think that their sex scene was hilarious. I mean, I really just thought it was like almost ridiculous. Just, I don't know. It just was, haven't formed my full opinion on how I feel about it yet. So we'll just move on, and then maybe I'll come back to it in my Tower of Dawn review, because at the moment, I've had days to think about it, and I can't decide if I love it because I think it's funny or I didn't like it. I haven't figured it out yet. But the fact that she then married him, and like all of a sudden that was out of the middle of nowhere, which is so Aelin, but usually her plan of secrecy doesn't involve Rowan. It died again. I really did charge it this time, so let's keep going. I'm sure the vibe every time this breaks is like the worst. So let's keep going. So Rowan and Aelin are married, and like I just feel like some parts of this book, Sarah got Aelin to call Rhys and was like, hey, you know, what's a good idea? And he's like, you know, secretly get married. And that's how she makes her decisions. I don't understand sometimes. So they're married. She's not technically the queen, so he's not technically the king, but I guess that was the whole purpose, as Sarah told us in the book. I feel like they're really finding their footing with being more comfortable in their relationship now. Everything is settled, but then they have to go off and play their parts. And I feel like, I almost said Rhys. I think Rowan does a really good job of that. I think Aelin sometimes gets confused on... You know what? No, she doesn't get confused, actually. She just doesn't play the part that everybody else wants her to play. She knows the type of queen she wants to be, and that's the kind of queen she's going to be. And thank God everyone just decently knows how to deal with her. The last scene. The last main scene. What in the world? So... back to the fact that a lead gets on her nerves. So everyone's fighting, and you think, you know what? The 13 showed up, we're good, everything's fine. This is awesome. And then everybody's like, oh, except for the fact that Maeve's over there where you tried to hide a lead with like 8 random dudes that are just like sitting there with their swords, like picking their teeth pretty much. I don't understand. So of course she's made an impossible bargain, and she's like, it's you or you in a lead. And I'm just like, or can we just trade a lead? I know that's bad. Unpopular opinion, I guess. I just am not a fan of a lead right now, and I know I should be, because I know she's been through it. And I want y'all to know that I do know that, and I'm aware of it, but I can't help the natural feelings that just come up when it's like everyone's freaking out about her. For some reason, maybe it's because I've seen them in scenes more often together. When Manon gets worried about a lead, it doesn't bother me as much. And I think it's because, I don't know, because I love Manon. I don't know. But then when it all comes down to it, and the girls have really banded together, just like, this is why I read the books that I read. Because Aelin knew she was going to eventually be taken. She knows she's always like 14 steps ahead, and you always think she's 10, but she's really 14. It's crazy just how much she thinks everything out, but then also tries to protect her court by not telling them just in case people don't come through. And I like totally relate to that, and I think a lot of people that read Sarah's books relate to the control, anxiety, ridden existence that I think most women have. I shouldn't even say women. I think most people have. The fact that she can't control everyone. So I think she's willing to tell a lot of things about herself and what she plans to do, but if it relies on anyone else making a decision, then she doesn't want to share that. And I think that that is really neat. So then at the end, when we all find out that Lysandra, and I apologize if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but Lysandra is going to play Aelin. I did not see that coming. And of course, Aedian's being a baby, as he was this entire book. I understand, of course, why he's upset, but it's like, listen, we got to do what we got to do. And if Rowan's not upset about it, then shut your mouth and sit down and do what you got to do. Because that's been his whole thing, is like, I'm going to be, you know, the best second in command, the best support person. I'm like, you might want to work on that. You're not doing such a great job right now. Just saying. He really disappointed me this book. I just felt like he fell short. He was a lot of talk about the kind of second he was going to be and the kind of support person he was going to be for Aelin, and I felt like this book he wasn't. And so when they made a really hard choice, and you got to also remember, I mean, Lysandra is giving up her life and having to act like someone else, and that sucks. And then, of course, she then slides the word keys into Manon's pocket, and then Manon, which I know that this last book, I know from my understanding, when I say last book, I'm talking about Kingdom of Ash. I think that's what it's called. I know that I still have to read Tower of Dawn, but to my understanding, that's just Chaol's storyline. I mean, whatever. I'll get through it if it gets me to the rest of the story. But I feel like Manon and Aelin and Lysandra are just going to take over the world, all three of them, while the guys sit there and like, y'all get on my nerves, y'all are always doing stuff on your own. And they're like, yeah, because y'all get in our way. Anyway, so I'm sure even that Manon and Aelin aren't that close. I feel like they have an understanding. For her to sit there and just watch Aelin be taken, and Ali just like screaming out to her to do something and she knows that she can't. Lysandra and Manon are the best. They understand that they cannot just do whatever their heart tells them to do, which is so funny because if you're watching, you know that there is a stigma that women do everything based off their feelings and emotions and hormones, which is like such a joke, because if you are a male or know a male, you would know that that's not a female exclusive trait. And I love that this book portrays that, because I know in my own personal life that's definitely not the case. And so I love that. I feel like the boys and the men in this story make more of a stink of anything. Oh, pause, by the way, rewind. I loved the little tidbit between Aedion and Lysandra where she's like, pretty much like, I know that she was saying that she thought she wasn't desirable because of her past, which she was forced into, by the way, as all of us know if you've read it. I act like I'm telling you some kind of news or something. And Aedion was like, listen, my number's just as high as yours, but mine was by choice, and I slept with anything and everything in between, and I'm cool with it. I did love that part. That was the one part that I was like, Aedion, great. And I didn't feel like it was so forced. I didn't feel like it was like cooked up. That to me went along with his personality traits, and I did really like that part. So let's all sum it back up, get together, come together. I clearly have not made my deadline because the last book is already out and I'm not there, but I'm also in the last month of my grad school and I'm trying, okay? I know you guys will understand. I hope. But we end this book with Aelin being taken away by Maeve, which Maeve can go trip and fall into a very, very, very deep ditch. And because I'm tired of her, and I'm tired of the fact that, like, I didn't even talk about Gavriel and Aedion. That was a whole nother weird situation, which I'm hoping gets a little bit more resolution in the next book. I think it was realistic that they didn't resolve much because they are fighting a war and they have a lot going on. So by the end of it, we have Gavriel and Lorcan, and of course Rowan, broken blood bond. And then Fenris, I think that's how you say his name, Fenris's punishment is that he has to say blood bonded to her. Okay, and did I make this up, or is Sarah trying to say that Fenris is like somewhat in love with Aelin? I told that to my friend the other day and she was like, what are you talking about? I was like, that's about I was kidding. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I was just reading way too much into that. So they don't have a blood bond anymore. Clearly Fenris had to go back with Aelin, which I'm so glad about because I feel like they would be like really good friends. They're very alike in a lot of aspects, and he clearly hates the blood bond and thinks Maeve's the worst. And so I feel like he is going to be able to assist her however long that she is with Maeve and all that awfulness. Rowan, of course, is dying inside like the rest of us, logically. Manon and Dorian clearly just have all the chemistry in the world. I, as you know if you've watched my other reviews, was Team Kale. I know. I don't know why. I'm going to go back and reread Throne of Glass now that I understand my love of Dorian. I don't know what happened. I'm flawed as a person. I'm so sorry. And so I'm loving them together because he turns into the ultimate version of himself to me when he's with her, and then that's to me the only time she can truly be vulnerable. I think she can be vulnerable with the 13, but there is a responsibility that comes with her relationship with them that clearly she doesn't have when she's with Dorian, and so I can't wait to see that develop. I can't wait to not be annoyed by a lead any longer. That would be great. Who else did I not touch on? I'm assuming Kale comes back into the mix in the last book. I'm really excited to get to the end and see what happens and how they resolve this. As of right now, it seems like it's going to be Aelin or Dorian. And my ending statement, because I'll ramble on for forever. My first thought when I read My Price is Nameless and all that, which took me way too long to understand, by the way. I should have got that way earlier than I did. But my first thought when you realize as the reader that it's going to be either Aelin or Dorian was, why are we forgetting about Dorian's brother? I feel like that would be a pretty fair exchange, you know. Take one for the team, then we don't have to be heartbroken. You get what I'm saying? I just don't understand why we can't use Dorian's little brother. I mean, haven't we all agreed that he's Joffrey? Like, I thought we had all agreed on that. So I felt like that was a really simple solution. So what's the need for 2 other books? You know, let's just wrap this up, bring Kale back, and figure out how to get Dorian's little brother and use the keys, and bada bing, bada boom, you know? Oh, I mean, we'd have to get the 3rd key first, but just saying. Just saying, Sarah. Found a loophole. I know you've already written the books, but I'm just saying. Anyways, that is it for today, guys. Sound off in the comments down below and let me know what you thought about this book. I know that I have some unpopular opinions about some characters, but that is okay with me. Let me know what you think, of course. I'll also have my other social media links in the description to my Goodreads, my Twitter, and my Instagram. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and hit the little bell notification. As you can tell, I'm being better about uploading videos. I'm trying, guys. I'm always trying to be better. Kind of. We'll see. But my next video most likely will either be my review of Tower of Dawn, or I've also noticed I've never done my booktuber newbie tag. Don't you want to see that? So, I will see you next time, and y'all know what to do. Don't forget to do what you do. Bye. Once again, don't eat hot Cheetos before you film a video.